Hey, it's Ashley here with some more stuff about advertising. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important documents in the advertising world, the creative brief. I'll explain what the purpose of it is, what goes into a typical brief, and what creatives can do with it to help concept. Creative briefs are the North Star for ad campaigns. Very simply, the brief gets everyone on the same page and tells you what the point of the ads will be. Creative briefs are written by strategists, usually with some input from the creative directors. Some agencies don't have strategists, so in those cases, it's usually the account team taking on that role. So they'll put everything together and then present the brief to the rest of the team during the project kickoff meeting. This is when you learn everything that you're going to be doing. Briefs look different at pretty much any agency you go to. Everyone has their own way of organizing it, they have their own template, they all look different. But all of them pretty much boil down to the same key information. Background on the client, business objective, strategy, promise, RTBs, audience, deliverables, and mandatories. That seems like a lot, so let's break it all down. Background on the client gives you an understanding of the client, the brand, or the product. It tells you why the brand was created, what the product is, what the product does, competitors, what's holding people back from buying the product. Pretty much anything that helps you understand the context of the project. The business objective tells you why the client is paying you. It could be to increase sales, get people to visit a website, buy tickets for something, or just raise general awareness about the brand. Your goal is to make advertising that will reach this objective. Strategy can be a complex topic, but I'm going to try to keep it high level for this video. Think of it like a football game. The business objective is to win the game. The strategy is your game plan, how you're going to win the game. Strategy is that unique angle or perspective that you're taking to make your advertising successful. For example, let's look at the Progressive commercials with Dr. Rick.
Okay, this is a freezer, not a time capsule.
Sometimes the house itself can tell you how a young homeowner is turning into their parents.
Not those two.
Yep, they're gone.
Forever?
Yep.
That there is Progressive's Home Quote Explorer website where I compared home insurance rates.
We don't need to print the internet.
If you haven't seen these, I highly recommend you go watch them because they're so good. This campaign is so much fun. But essentially, Progressive's business objective for this campaign is to increase sales of homeowner insurance. That's the game they want to win. But their game plan to get that win, or their strategy, was to narrow the focus and target young homeowners specifically. While the rest of the homeowner insurance industry may be targeting anyone and everyone, Progressive's strategy is to speak to a specific type of homeowner. The promise is the main point you want your ads to communicate. This is usually no more than a sentence because anything longer is way too much to communicate quickly, efficiently, and creatively. The promise is what you want people to walk away with after seeing your ads. The RTBs are where you bring the receipts. RTB stands for reason to believe. And this is just anything that helps the brand live up to that promise that was previously stated in the brief. This can include features and benefits, product claims, study results, any kind of proof point that would make your audience care. The audience is who you're talking to. And this section isn't just limited to demographics like age, location, and gender. It can and should go into psychographics too, like shopping behavior, where they get their news, what life stage they're in. And the more specific this section, the more useful. Progressive could have just said that their audience is homeowners, but that wouldn't really help the creative team much. Instead, it probably said something like young homeowners who are currently in their first home dealing with the chaos of maintaining a home all while raising a family and worrying about aging and becoming their parents. I totally just made that up, but you get the idea. The audience section also helps guide the tone of your ads, because ads that would appeal to a college student would be much different in tone from ads that would appeal to parents. We're almost to the end. Deliverables. These are the things that you're actually making. It could be a 30-second online video, a couple print ads, 2 Instagram posts, 3 TikTok videos. Deliverables can range from a tiny list to a huge daunting list. It changes with every project. And finally, mandatories. These are the details and random specific things that the client asked you to include. A lot of times these are legal watchouts. It could be that all the social posts that you make have to include a specific branded hashtag, or maybe they want a URL included on all the print ads. It's a lot of the specific stuff like that. So that was a very not brief briefing on briefs. Whew. Let's look at a couple actual briefs to see how this all comes together. You can find a lot of creative briefs online by looking at student award shows and contests. I'll link some of the good ones in the description. This one comes from D&AD's New Blood Awards, and this one's for Audible. It may have sections with slightly different names from what we just went over, but you'll notice that it's all the same info. So you start with a backstory on Audible, so it tells you what it is. It's a subscription service that lets you experience storytelling like never before. And then they go in to say that people don't really know what Audible offers exactly. So that's setting up some of the context for you. And then they go into the challenge, which in this case sounds a little bit more like a deliverable. They're asking to create a new tone of voice guide. They get into the audience, who they're talking to. They also include this things to think about section, which some strategists will include thought starters or just little tidbits that they think could help the creative team. So these are usually pretty useful. And then what they call the important stuff is looking like deliverables, mandatories, all that specific stuff. So yeah, looks like a pretty standard brief. The Young Ones is another student award show, and this year's brief they did for Activision Blizzard. And this one's pretty simple. It only has 4 sections. It starts with the challenge, which is essentially the deliverable, what they're asking you to do. It gives you some context on the game that they're having you create something for. Goes into the business problem, so this gives you an idea of maybe what's holding people back from playing this game. And then they end it with the audience, and in this case they have 2 audiences, a primary and a secondary. But what's interesting about this brief is the top, where it has a one-liner, drop into culture. So that's basically the main idea that they want people to walk away with after reading this brief. Anything that's created from this brief should be culturally relevant. So even in this really simple brief format, it's still giving you most of the same information that we just went over. Now let's talk about how to actually use this thing. If you're part of the creative team, you're gonna leave that project kickoff meeting and go get to work. So how does this piece of paper, this creative brief, help you do that? One thing you can do is underline or highlight stuff. Any words or phrases that stick out to you should get highlighted, and then use those as jumping off points for concepts. Go through each one that you've highlighted with your partner and try to come up with ideas based on that word or phrase. Also write down questions that the brief conjures for you. Maybe you have questions about the audience and their lifestyle. Maybe there are things you want to know about the product or things that confuse you. All of those are great things to go research online or in books. Do people still do that? And find interesting facts and little tidbits and insights to build off of for creative ideas. I want you to read the brief many, many, many times. When you first get it, when you're a day into concepting, when you're halfway through executing all the ads, even when you think you've memorized every word of it, I want you to read it again. Keep coming back to the brief. It centers you and reminds you what the heck you're trying to do. Because in the chaos of creativity and concepting, sometimes that goal can get a little muddy. So coming back to the brief will make sure that everything you're actually creating solves the problem the brief set up for you. So this was just a brief intro on creative briefs. I hope it gave you a good understanding of the structure of a brief and what kind of information goes into one, but there's a lot more we can talk about when it comes. Rice is done. But there's a lot more we can talk about when it comes to briefs. Sometimes they're boring and uninspiring, which is why knowing what kind of information should go into a brief can help you fill in the gaps when you need to. But that's for a future video. So if you have any other questions about briefs, please drop them in the comments and I'll go into much more detail later on. Happy concepting!